Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Here's the third segment in the triad of the secrets of prospecting. So far, Kelly, we have talked about where to. Oh, by the way, that's Kelly.
Hi.
Sorry. If she doesn't get introduced, she gets very cranky.
Oh man.
This is the third section, and the first one was where to look for prospects, and we gave you a bunch of different areas to look. Then we talked about what do you do with those prospects? How do you do the research and preparation of making that big call? And today we're going to leave you with a plan, something that you can do in a 1-step, 2-step, 3-step, 4-step. And Kelly, this is something that really blows me away. By my own estimation, based on the sales assessment test that I did, 9 out of 10 salespeople in our industries have no prospecting process whatsoever. What is up with that?
I am not surprised, first of all. But I don't understand why that means you and I aren't millionaires. Like that doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Well,
But
you.
shame on you. But this is why you're here. So good job. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of it's kind of funky, kind of blows us away.
Yeah.
So, your plan, it doesn't have to be anything spectacular, right? You think of the options. You can call someone. You can go see them. You can stick something in the mail. You can send them an email. There's a whole bunch of different ways of getting someone's attention.
Yeah.
Put a combination of those together,
Yep.
do them in sequence. That's a
Yep.
plan. So,
Yes.
is there a magic plan? No, because if there were, Kelly's right. You'd be listening to our third assistants because we'd be on the beach. But we're not on the beach. We're here. So there isn't. The secret sauce here is the fact that you do the process at all. The fact that you are out there doing it again and again and again. That's the important part. But Kelly, what happens with most salespeople? Why is there no process and why are there herky-jerky sales? What do most salespeople do?
So when they're busy, they do nothing because they're too busy answering calls and getting quotes done and taking care of their customers. And then things slow down, and their sales manager or the owner walks into their office and goes, "What the hell is going on? We need sales." And they go, "Ah," and they pick up the phone and they call who knows who and say who knows what.
Right.
And they do that for a few days and they go, "No one's calling me back." And they say, "Prospect cold calling doesn't work." And then they stop because they get busy again and nothing happens. Like nothing good comes of that.
Right.
So, and as you said, 90% of you out there are doing that. So we're just saying this is a relatively simple fix. Again, it's these number of different touches across a very, specific amount of time with an end,
Yep.
and it gets you somewhere. Like I have 3 meetings next week that I'm really excited about. I got a new customer because they told me they were so impressed with my persistence because I didn't just call once and hang up. But here's the thing, it actually takes some real commitment, some real discipline, and it takes the ability to communicate across different channels. And we're going to talk about this and probably argue about this later. But there's tweeting, there's Facebook, there's contacting them via LinkedIn, there's texting them. Texting them. These are all things that today are much more accepted than they were a year ago and will probably be more accepted a year from now than they are today. So,
And again, just what's happening right now, as Kelly said, is that, in some downtime when things are slow, they do prospecting. When things pick up, most salespeople will stop. Or maybe everything is shipped. Everything just shipped. So you go out there and you go, "Oh my gosh, I got all this work." So you have these roller coaster sales. And part of the goal here is going to be to find a consistent number of prospects that you can start at any one time, because you want to have those consistent numbers on the other end. So, but we'll talk more about that later on. And really, you know what? It doesn't take that much. You need a process. It's got to be measurable. You should be held accountable to it. So between Kelly and me, we've got 7 kids. Kelly's winning 4-3. And
woohoo!
as mine are older, my girls are older, and
You're winning.
I'm winning on that end. I know I've won on that one. Sorry, crossed the finish line. But this is just like talking to children. There's got to be some accountability. You got to have some goal setting. But build a fundamentally based, very simple process, and you will find success. Make it multifaceted, not just phone call, phone call, phone call, phone call. Throw in a handwritten postcard. Something crazy like that. Why? Nobody handwrites anymore. Exactly. Nobody handwrites anymore. It's going to get noticed.
I'm gonna get even more like talking to children than you are, and I'm gonna be really. If you say you don't have time to make a call every day, you're wrong. There's
Right.
everybody, I don't care how busy you are. And because Bill, really, at the very least of this, we could be talking about something as simple as 15 minutes a day.
Sure.
Now, again, you're a rookie. I'm talking 7 hours of your day, but wherever you are in your career, you have time. And I will say this, like prospecting at the height of my sales career in printing was my favorite part of it. Because if you really truly have sales in your blood, you love the hunt. Like that's what you are here to do. And you're actually hurting yourself by not giving yourself the time to do it.
Sure.
So everybody within your organization should be on board with making sure you have the time to do it.
But remember too that this is finite. You want to make your process finite. We'll talk about when to stop, how to stop, why to stop, under which circumstances. We'll talk about that as well. But first, let's talk about that first impression. Kelly, this was one of your things that you had kind of highlighted for me. You get one chance to make a first impression. So you've got some options as to what that first impression should be. What are those options, Kelly, and why is this an important comment, consideration?
Well, again, you could go all the way back to, the olden times and send a letter that is signed in blue ink and hand addressed with a stamp on it. You can call, you can send an email, you can go and visit, you could send some other something in the mail, some kind of promotional idea or something like that, or you could utilize any of the social networks, tweeting, Facebook, LinkedIn, any of those kinds of things. So up until about maybe the last year, Bill, you and I were always on board and kind of in agreement that a letter was a great way to start out this process.
Right.
I actually still agree with that. I still actually do think that sending a letter is a great non-invasive, making a commitment to putting ink on paper because you're a printer, and a way to start a conversation and say some things to somebody without having to overcome objections or deal with their voicemail. You can, on this piece of paper, say whatever you want to say to them.
Yeah,
So I'm still going to go letter. I like it.
And remember that the number one reason someone's going to buy from you is your raw sales ability, your professionalism. So that first impression is very important because you want that to show, you want that professionalism to come out. So Kelly, let's jump right to it here. Let's talk about one particular process. This is something that we know works. Nothing magic, right? In the first week, you do your research, you send out an introductory letter. Okay, so the letter doesn't have to be anything particularly fancy. It should be on your letterhead. It should be grammatically correct. It's very important. We are in the accuracy business.
Yeah.
And you want to make certain that, as Kelly said, it looks professional, signed in blue ink. Blue ink, my professor at the University of Alabama said you sign letters in blue ink so that people can look at them and say, well, this wasn't mimeographed. This was early 80s, by the way.
Google that, kids. Mimeograph.
Mimeographed, yeah. Do you remember when the paper used to smell? Like, that's so cool. Yeah, many moons ago. So you send out that introductory letter. It's signed. It's got a PS because everybody reads the PS. And if you email me, I will send you some sample letters. Okay? All right. Week 2, you're making 2 phone calls. I make my first round of phone calls on Tuesdays and Fridays. Tuesday only because someone told me a long time ago that Tuesday is the best business day of the week. I don't know if it's true. It just stuck. Fridays because, well, Kelly?
People are in a good mood on Friday. It's Friday!
Yeah. And if you ask any sales rep, what's the worst day of the week to make a sales call? They'll say
Friday.
So my competition is taking the afternoon off thinking nobody wants to talk to me today. I'm not going to make any calls. I make the calls. I think that's very important. Week 3, I send out a handwritten postcard. Something very simple. It just has my name and company logo on one side, and it's blank on the other side. And I just write down something like, been trying to get you on the phone, haven't had any luck. Next time I call, maybe we can connect. Bill. That's it. Postcards have a 100% readership. You pick them up, you flip them over. Simple. You're also making another phone call that week. The third week, I'm making another. The third week is the postcard. The fourth week then is one final postcard, one final phone call, and then maybe an email, but then the decision. So again, Kelly.
Bill, I'm going to say something right now that is going to totally derail everything that you just said. But it's really a simple tweak. So I do not remember which one, but it's either a major bank or financial institution of some kind just got rid of voicemail,
Oh yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
right? People are not using their phones. They're IMing. All the major corporations have, internal IM, and people are using email. So just be thinking about this, that your voicemails might not be listened to. So all I'm saying is you may substitute some portion of or much of what you see here with phone call with email.
Right.
Because your emails have a good chance of getting read, especially if, and I don't even know if we go into this here, but if you write a really interesting creative subject line, your emails are going to be likely to get read. But take that all aside, we still have to call. Like, we're still
Yeah.
gonna call.
Yeah.
But we just have to embrace the technology that's available to us and go with what works. If you're noticing that your emails are getting responded to more quickly and more often, use more email.
Right.
That's just as simple as it is.
And you can check, by the way, you can do a check on your subject line in your email to see if, the spam factor. I've forgotten what the website is, but you can Google it and figure out, what are the chances that this is going to get through if I use this kind of subject. So in any event, you know what? There's the 4-week process. Excuse me. Research, intro letter, phone call, postcard, phone call, decision. Now, let's talk about an email process here, Kelly. Despite the fact that over 90% of the email that comes into all of us is spam, this was one that I thought was fantastic. It was used on me successfully. It was a guy out of California on the West Coast, and he sent me an email, and it read, "Are you available this week or next? I want to talk to you about some ideas that I've got to help you to grow your current business and to meet your current business objectives." And so what did I do? I threw it out. Well, 3 days later, he forwards me the original email, assuming, he told me later, that I would throw it out. And he said, "Bill, I'm still interested in speaking with you about your business objectives." It's like he called me out, right? And all of a sudden, I'm like, okay. And I pick up the phone and I called him. And his name was Matt Hayes. And Matt worked for Cisco, and I called him up and I said, "I am fascinated with your process." He said, "I get an appointment 10% of the time using that process." And I'll tell you what,
So great.
in this world of prospecting and cold calling, 10% is huge. You're
really
in the Hall
good.
of Fame if you can make 10%, right? And he said, "My sales, I'm consistently in the top 10% of sales in the country. And all I do is send these emails out. So that'll work too."
Yeah.
So, and we encourage you to create something. We encourage you to change it up. What you come up with is personal. And, it really depends on the prospect as to exactly what you're going to do and when you're going to quit. So, Kelly, let's talk about that, okay? Because there's two schools of thought, right? If you called me up and you left a message, hey, Bill, it's Kelly. You left me another message, hey, Bill, it's Kelly. Hey, Bill, it's Kelly. 3-4 times, I don't call you back. What do you think of me?
Well, on the one hand, I think you're rude, and on another hand, I think you're overwhelmed and you get too many sales calls every day and you're
Sure.
not going to call anybody back.
Sure.
So, trying to give you the benefit of the doubt, I think you might be overwhelmed. So,
But if I'm John Q. Average, you might say, "You know what? That's not how I do business."
Right.
So if I've called someone 4 times, given the fact that 90% of the time somebody leaves one voicemail message and never calls again,
right.
if I'm making 4 or 5 calls to someone, I'm doing something extraordinary. If they don't call me back, they're not my customer.
It's their loss. It's their
Right.
loss too. And you've probably made that somewhat clear by the 4th or 5th voicemail too. And that is why we're at this point of when we're talking about stopping, which is one of my clients I thought did a really great thing in her email, her what we call the I give up email,
Right.
was to say, "Look, I have to move on to other opportunities and other prospects that want to know about how I can help them." Like,
Yes.
it was really like, I can't sit around here forever being a chump, and I loved that she was that direct about it. And she told me it worked really well for her.
I think that's great. I like
So-
that terminology too.
Yeah.
I've got to move on. Sorry.
Yeah.
You're right. You lose.
Another way I really like to do it was to say in my I give up that for whatever reason, I haven't been able to connect with you. It's like you're taking all the blame on yourself. Like,
Yeah.
I have failed to connect with you when I've called you and emailed you and sent you a postcard and dropped something off at your office. You're still saying, "Look, it's me and I'm here, but for now I'm gonna I'm going to stop. You
Right.
won't be hearing from me anymore. And you can make it funny if you're more of a funny person. You can put whatever of your own personality and brand, stamp on it you want to. But it tends to really jar people into thinking like, what if this was really the one person that had something really interesting and unique to tell me and I just blew it, you
Yeah.
know?
But they will. It's kind of funny because I've gotten phone calls back, and I deliver this as well, where somebody's left a very good voicemail message, and on the basis of the quality of the voicemail, I'll pick up the phone and call back and say, I'm not going to buy anything from you, but wow, that was really something. You're really good on that. So you got three options when you're ready to say that's it. You can stop forever, throw them out. You can stop for now, call them again in a month, 2 months, 6 months. I've been in sales coaching for a long time, and I've heard people say, "Hey, Bill, I got a phone call from someone that I was prospecting 6 months ago. I never got him on the phone."
Right.
And you know what? And we've got lots of stories I can tell about voicemail, and we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get to the voicemail. But that persistency definitely pays off. But you can also say, "No, I'm done. I'm completely done." Or you could say, "I will call every week until they pick up."
Until you give in and listen to me.
Yeah, the
Right.
Verizon sales call. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Next up, we want to talk about how to track this activity. And what you're looking at right now is a Microsoft Excel document that we call the sales grid. And this is very simple. This is also something that I can send you. But this is a document that just shows, if you look at the words that are vertical there's research, there's letter, there's phone call. That's the process that we talked about earlier. And then you can't see this, but down at the bottom, there's different tabs for different weeks. So you start a list, and then next week you'd turn to the next tab and start that list. But then you go back to the first week and you do the week 2 activities, and that way you just keep going. You keep keeping track of things. And in some of the training that Kelly and I do, we actually ask people to send that to us. So just as a way of tracking all this.
And if you're using a CRM, you could easily just, as you complete a task, you can just set up another task to do the next thing
Sure.
with a date associated with it too. So although I think, as you talked about 90% of salespeople not having any process, I'm thinking 95 to 98% of you out there are not using a CRM.
Yeah, well, there is that too. There is that too. So just to summarize then, create a fundamental approach, nothing fancy. The secret sauce here is in the diligence. Be pleasantly persistent. Something, make a sales call with a big smile on your face. Let people know you're not going away. Remember, voicemail is, it's the hand. It's stop. And if you just keep leaving voicemail messages, the message you're leaving is, I'm not going away. You can ignore me all you want. I'm going to wear
And
you down.
here's the thing too, you have nothing to lose.
Right.
You really have absolutely nothing to lose in doing this. This is part of our job. It's what we do. And if you go into it with the right attitude that, you're important and you have a job to do and you really honestly do have ideas and ways to make their lives better, there's none of this, oh, I'm bothering them. They don't want to hear from me. You got to put all that aside and say, I am, again, Stuart Smalley, right, Bill?
Yeah.
I'm smart enough. I'm good enough. And gosh darn it, people like me.
That's right.
This is why we're here.
One last word of warning. If you can't finish the sentence that starts, the purpose of my call is, and say something of value, Kelly,
Don't pick up the phone.
don't pick up the phone. Don't pick up the phone. That gets back to the research thing. But I tell you what, you've got to have something of value. It's got to be a part of the process. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. Try something. Mix it up. Change it. Excuse me. See what your success rate is. There's no secret, there's no magical way of doing this, but the fact that you're doing it consistently with a process consistently makes all the difference in the world. So, all right. So Kelly, there's our top 3 then. There's where to look, what to say, and what to do, right? We've given them 75%. They should be able to go out and sell stuff now, right?
I am expecting great things from you all.
Okay,
I cannot
very
wait
good.
to hear the success stories.
Coming up is time management, is overcoming objections, beating voicemail, making effective sales presentations, and more and more and more. So we're going to get to that. I know, right? Terrifying. We're going to get to that. Maybe we'll do a wardrobe change or something like that.
That would be great.
And we will be back. Kelly Malazzi, thanks very much
Thanks, Bill.
over here. And we'll talk to you all again on the next training webinar.